I'm vengeance.
Welcome back, everybody. This is Mark 128 of the Super Civil Servants podcast. My name is Greg, the Bat Daddy 52. I thought about changing it to Vengeance 52, but it just didn't sound as good. So we've got some really fun stuff to talk about this week. I've been waiting to talk about the Batman for seems like forever now, and we're going to tonight, as long as some Picard, some squirrels, all that good stuff. And doing it with me, I got my co-hosts and my friends. I was gonna say my boys, but Sarah's here too. My homies. Ross, what's up, man?
Not much. Long week. Pushing one extra day.
Yeah.
Saturday has felt like a Monday. I'm telling you that.
There's been certain days this week that have just drug on for me, and then other days that have flown by. Like today flew by for me. I can't believe it's here now, but it's fun. Oh, and by the way, sorry everybody. Special Saturday show. You know, busy Fridays and hadn't seen the movie yet, so we want to just push it till we get this review out. But Sarah, what's up?
Friday with the vengeance.
That's right.
I'm good, fellas. I'm good.
It's great.
Batman's fresh in my brain. Saw it this morning, so I'm like, had it sitting in my theater, drinking, sipping mimosas, and watching violence. So yes, great morning.
Ross, I feel like I peer pressured you into seeing this movie this morning, but I don't feel too bad about it because you get the end result is you got to see a fun movie. So
I don't. I was like, watch it.
The trick was, I didn't know when I was going to be able to,
right.
And so I actually had to go on a drive real early this morning instead of like later on in the day. So it just kind of worked out. So
fair.
I know I wasn't going to be able to last night. And allergy season here is kicking everyone's butt. And I have been so doped up on allergy pills that I've been barely getting sleep.
Dude, it's come up this way too. I mean, that's been me for the past week, and I probably hadn't had allergies since I moved up here. And I'm like, damn it.
North Carolina for you. Yep. That's what it is. But all right. Well, obviously we're talking about the Batman this week. We're talking about Picard season 2 premiere. And before we get into all that, I just want to get some thoughts out about Revan. I know I was talking about it before, but I've completed it. So you want to talk a little Star Wars with me, and then we'll get into everything else?
Do it.
Cool. Okay. So I started Revan. All right. Now, to this point, I've read all the Throne books. I've read the Bane books, and I've gone into Revan, and right now I'm into Plagueis. I realize now that I read these things completely out of order, especially starting with Thrawn. I'm just kind of doing like a machete style reading. And going into Plagueis now, I realize that I should have read Bane and then straight into Plagueis instead of back to Revan. So just time jumping is what I'm doing, which is terrible for me because I'm not good with time jumping. But okay, so Revan of these books, like I said before, it started out pretty like as my least favorite of the books I've read so far. The first 13 chapters were like I was really having a hard time catching it, but I know this is like a fan favorite character. I know this guy's got to be good. So I know Nathan keeps telling me it's a great book, and Sarah, I know you love Revan, and he's just a huge fan favorite. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to go through it. After the first 13, because there's 27 chapters, the rest of it was pretty amazing. I don't know why. It was like at the point I stopped and restarted, it started to get really, really good. Then the ending, and Sarah, I think you described this to me, is just abrupt and ends terribly. Like it would end great if it was the second book or it had a sequel to it. But the way it kind of ends, and just nothing from the beginning of the book to the end of the book has changed. From what happened with Revan, it's like, and Revan's gone, and I realized that I know the future story and everything else, but I just whenever I looked into a Revan book, a more interesting story for me was the Revan and Malik story, like him Jedi, Sith, Jedi. But I guess I can get that by getting the games, and by reading this book, Revan book, it's made me want to buy all of the Knights of the Old Republic games, which I'm going to do because they're dirt cheap now on the PC. But I also wanted to address that I've seen people online. The Emperor in this book is the most. I don't give a shit what anybody says. The Emperor in this book is the most badass villain ever in Star Wars. Okay. And Revan is the most powerful Jedi ever in Star Wars. Like, I don't want to hear an argument about it if you haven't read this book because they both are. It's insane. Like, the Emperor in this book literally sucks the life force out of a planet and not just kills all the like living beings, like the plants, everything, insects. The actual force is gone from this planet. This planet
Yeah,
is
it
a
creates a
void.
void.
Yes. Okay. And that's how he's lived for thousands of years. So you can't tell me that no matter what, that Sidious could do anything to this guy. This guy could make a thought and kill you with just a thought. There's absolutely no way. And I've seen arguments online, people talking about Sidious could beat him. There's no way in hell Sidious could beat this guy. Absolutely no way. But I just wanted to lay that to rest because, I mean, just the way it is. But the book finished strong, like I said, the last 13, 14 chapters, but I hated the way it ended, and it felt like it should have been a continued story. And I do realize now, after watching the cutscenes from the new Knights of the Old Republic like reboot, that is the next story. Like, that's the story coming back. So I'll have to get that game and play that, or just watch all the cutscene movies or clips and figure that out. Even though I watched a lot of them, but it was jumping around, and I guess I need to play the game to really make it make more sense.
Well, that book to me is because you had Knights of the Old Republic, you had that video game. So that was basically like, the old one. That was like the beginning. And then Revan, the book itself, that's where it took place after this. So to me, the whole book unto itself is almost like you're just kind of slicing out a bit of time. Like this one little, like you have this whole
Oh no.
story, but that ending it does, because I remember because I read the actual book. So I'm like I'm like reading it last page, and I'm like,
yeah, that's the way I felt listening to it. I was like, what?
There's got to be more out there. And that's the only complaint I have, because it was just so like, it just ended.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no.
Kevin in the chat says that they actually ended the Revan story in the MMO. The first two games are amazing. Yeah, I'm going to check them out. I'm going to get them and watch them. I tried watching the cutscenes from the first original games, but that's one of those things that, like, I'm not going to watch this unless I'm playing it and watching it, because it's just not quality that I want to watch just for the hell of watching it. So I'm going to get the games. I mean, I saw 2 of them online for like $11.
Yeah.
Like, they've been doing the re-releases for like the past 3 years. They've been dropping like Outcast and all the other old ones. And I mean, I even picked them up for like Switch.
Yeah.
Just for, just to reminisce, I guess, really the best way to put it. But
that's what I should do, is get a Switch. Or actually, I've got a Switch. Get them for Switch. Or it's the Switch. Yeah. Not any good. Just get on PC.
I mean, they got plenty of games and all that kind of stuff. But at the same time, I mean, you might as well looking back is fantastic. All the stuff they had, but if you didn't grow up with it, it's kind of like a different story.
Right.
So now you have all these new things that are coming out, and they're trying to do all sorts of weird stuff with it. The problem is that most of us still hold on to that. That's the whole problem with Star Wars. We hold on to our Star Wars. And so, I don't know. I mean, I would definitely say play the Old Republic games. Those, I think, are really the ones that are worth it. All the other ones you can pretty much skip.
Yeah.
But, I mean, even that new game, they got so much controversy, so they're not even dropping that one till like 27 or something like that. Like, they just showed a preview of it for the first time this year. Like, that's 5 years away. I'm not waiting that long.
I mean, I'll be here whenever it comes out. So, like, and if that's when it comes out, I'll wait that long because I had to. But I mean, I don't know. Kevin says the remaster in the first game. That'd be pretty cool. He says probably the best Star Wars story since the OG movies. Yeah, like I said, I know the whole Revan story, like from beginning to end, but I've only read the Revan book, and the Revan story is a great story. I'd love to see this in some movies or see a storyline of it. I didn't get what I wanted out of that book, and so I guess maybe it was coming off of Bane. Really, really like the Bane trilogy. Um, and now that I'm into Plagueis, I realized that I should have gone straight from Bane to Plagueis in the order because Revan was before all that anyway. But it is cool now that I'm actually reading the Plagueis book. Like this is really really good. I'm about 6 7 chapters in, but like in the epilogue, you get and spoilers. I don't even care. Well, y'all care if I talk about what's going on with the book. I don't know if y'all read the Plagueis book or not.
No, go ahead, knock yourself out.
Okay, cool.
Can't say spoilers after like 10 years. You're good.
Yeah. in the epilogue, it's like yeah, it's a good point. It's Sidious killing gosh, why can't I'm having a meltdown right now in my brain. Plagueis. Okay, it's Sidious killing Plagueis in the epilogue. And then in the intro, the first chapter, it's Plagueis killing his mentor, which I can't remember his name, or his master, which I can't remember his name right now. And it did answer some questions and set up some really cool stuff. The question we were talking about last week, I know we were talking about the rule of two and how we didn't really understand what was going on with it, or I didn't, at least based on what I've read in the books, into what we've seen in the movies, because it seems like there's been a lot more Sith than just the two. And in this book, they explain that the rule of two is only what is directly down from the Bane line. Like there are other people who are fakes, they say, that are Force users or that are not real Sith, but they would never be Sith lords. And I was like, oh, okay, well that's cool. They explain that. Like I really, really thought that was cool. It's really cool in this one that they are setting up this. They set it up that it's 42 years BBY, I think, and they're setting up the annual pod race in which you see Anakin in. I guess it's been going on a few years then. They mention the Revenge of Sith, how this is the start of the Revenge of the Sith, which is really cool to hear that. Plagueis is really the one who set all this stuff in motion, not Sidious, to be truly honest with you. Like just going back and listening,
Someone's got a plan. You're going to piggyback off of that.
Yeah, and I guess that's the way it's been going down the line. It's cool because in this one they reference Bane quite a bit. They reference Zana, they reference Cognis, like all these characters that I've read about in the book before, or the books before. They reference all this stuff in their teachings and everything else, the holocrons and everything. I'm like, it's cool that I know all that stuff from reading this book. That's why I should have read them in that order. But if you haven't read that one, it's a really really good read, and it's cool seeing how it's setting up. I'm only 6 chapters in, and I already know how this is going to go, setting up for. What's the Phantom Menace, like rolling right into that. It's pretty cool. So I'm enjoying it, but I did want to talk about Revan for a minute because B plus story, just the book, but I know the story's great. So I want to see the rest of the story, and I'm going through the games, and I'll keep you updated as I go.
Play the remastered one. I mean, like Kevin in the chat's good. Like the games are really where it's at, because not only are you getting the story, you're interactive, and interactive is always the best way to be whenever you're a part of this. That's why we love TV and movies. So
they should definitely have, Star Wars should definitely look into like having some type of, maybe Disney Plus show with Revan or Plagueis or whomever, because that would be like a great, like 8 episodes, because all this happens like 4,000 years prior to what we know. Mm-hmm. So the Old Republic, that would just be wow, because it's just the whole Jedi Sith idea. Then it's just totally different. That would be my pitch to Disney Plus. That should be your next story. That should be your next series.
You know what they need to do? They need to open up a hotel room that costs an arm and a leg. That's what they should do. I want to be truly interactive.
Well, they think that people have endless money. Disney does. So, and I guess some people do.
Yeah,
they do enjoy that stuff. So,
some of their biggest people. You know who does have money? They have money.
They do have money. They're wearing the Infinity Gauntlet. What was it? Somebody sent that meme with Mickey Mouse holding the Infinity Gauntlet and everything that Disney owns. Yeah, that's great. All right. Well, I'll go.
Actually, something. Well, I'm going to kind of roll right into something else. You're talking about the boys show. Something we were going to kind of discuss, and it's pretty cool because Star Wars had that. Oh my God! What did we watch on here? With the little shorts, with all the man, I had the name and I'm blanking like crazy.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
I called it a passion project because it was really cool. Each of them were their own little story, and now I started watching that boys show because you're like, hey, we'll discuss it too. And same thing. Like, I don't know what they did, but they brought on like the same kind of vibe of having,
Visions.
yeah. Like, I kept on wanting to say Force of Destiny. I'm like, not that thing.
Not
No,
quite.
I'm like that one. But no, like, just to kind of roll into something right else. I mean, the boys diabolical. Have you watched any of the episodes?
I have not yet. No.
You didn't watch it? Oh, maybe like halfway through it. Fucking weird.
Is it like 30-minute episodes?
Oh, weird.
I
Oh no,
imagine?
it's shorter than that. Like,
Really?
it's
Okay.
almost exactly like Visions. Like,
Okay.
these people get to tell their own stories. They have fantastic names behind the voice actors. Um, I mean, some of the stories are really good. Some of them are like, what the shit did I just watch?
Right.
But you got the same thing with Visions,
Mhm.
I just thought it was a cool little thing. I'm going to try to finish it at some point over the course of the next week, but that was pretty good. I don't know what else you guys have been watching this week. I just knew that I was going to make the comparison to Vision, so it was definitely like right on par with it.
I really haven't been watching a whole lot this week, man. Yeah, I did watch the Picard and the Batman, but other than that, man, it hadn't really been a TV week for me. It's been a fixing a lot of stuff around the house week because it's been nice weather where I'm
Yeah.
at. So, and it's getting darker later. So, but yeah. Oh, well, I did catch up on like 3 episodes of Next Level Chef, which is an awesome show. I don't know. I like cooking shows. I say. Trying to think. Yeah. I don't know, man. I'm gonna watch it. I mean, it's one of those things that, like, in passing, if it didn't have the boys attached to it, it's probably something that I would just never give any attention to. Because it does, I'll give it a chance. And I enjoyed the Visions, the Star Wars thing. So we'll see. I'll try to get it all watched. We'll talk about it next week if we can.
This is dirty and filthy. I
Okay.
mean, fantastic. It is a wonderful adult comedy humor animation. Uh, Definitely recommend it. Just take the bad episodes. I mean, no, I'm not. I'm not going to tell you. I'm just going to wait for you to find out.
Okay.
There's a couple in there that are just really going to surprise you, but a lot of them are right on par with the boys' universe, and I love that. So, I think the only other thing I've really been watching was I watched Vikings Valhalla. I think I'm about halfway through that too. Really good.
Ashley passed through it the other day. She almost started watching that. She was like, "That looks pretty good," and I was like, "Oh yeah." Ross had mentioned that, so I imagine that's going to be in my viewing in the near
You can
future.
jump in it without knowing much. They mentioned the old characters from the original series,
Hmm.
but beyond that, I mean, you don't need to know anything. You just need to know that Vikings love like to get money, so
Yeah.
that's what they're gonna do. They're gonna
They
go
do.
and get a raid.
Yeah.
I was interested to find out though that the lead character in that show, the lead female, was actually tried to what she tried out to be Rey for Star Wars, and so that was really cool.
Okay.
Did not make it. Well, so I definitely have to check it out.
Just
I
all
know
this good
Ashley
time.
stopped in passing whenever she was going through it. I was like, okay, that'll be something that we end up watching eventually. So
It's a real quick. It's a Netflix show. I mean, just real quick in and out. You don't even like I said. You don't have to know anything.
yeah, algorithms, they're telling me to do it too. It's all signs pointing to it.
Turn
And
off your smart speakers. They know we're talking about it.
oh yeah, that's exactly what it is. Start popping up on my phone here in just a minute. I'm sure
Mm-hmm.
previews for it. All right. Well, is there anything else you want to talk about, or y'all want to hop into this Batman? Because I've been waiting for days to talk about it, and I've got so many things I want to say, and it's not as fresh for me as it is for y'all. But I'm sure once we get to stirring the pot, it'll be fun. Y'all want to get into it?
Go ahead, Greg. Let's go. I'm just ready for you to just
Oh,
throw it
okay.
on out there.
Like I mentioned in the non-spoilers preview, or non-spoilers little short one I did, this is not my favorite Batman, but this is a good Batman. This was a good movie. I'm totally down with these characters going forward. Okay. After I get used to these characters and maybe start to get more involved with them into maybe the second or third story, because I know there's going to be 3, it very well could be my favorite Batman because he did a really good job. But it's one of those things that even my wife, whenever we were in the theaters, about an hour in the movie, leaned over to me and she was like, "Pattinson's good, but he's no Affleck." And my wife told me that, and I was like, "Wow, okay, cool, I get that. I mean, I'm not disagreeing with you, But I think he did a really good job, and I really enjoyed this movie. I haven't seen any bad comments about it so far. Um, well, I can say that I've seen some pretty dumb comments about it, but
Have you now? Really?
I need to just choose to ignore that kind of stuff and move on. Um, but yes, I'm ready to talk some spoilers about it, and I have not really gotten any comments from y'all about how you feel about it. I got a pretty good idea, just knowing what y'all like. That we're gonna have some good comments about it.
Yes, we're
But
going to say
Sarah,
full spoilers. This
yeah,
is
this is full
full
spoiler. We're going on.
spoilers. If you have
Yeah.
not seen it prior to this, go watch it because
Okay.
we are going to talk about everything.
Well, get us started. Let's talk about everything. Where you want to start? You want to start characters? You want to start scenes, or you want to just jump all over the place?
I just want to say my first impression, the first thing that this my favorite part. This is probably going to sound like really stupid, but that car. Oh my God. I think that my favorite part of that whole damn movie was that chase. Even though that was what it was in the trailer, it was just the whole, when you first see that car, it was like, because I mean, I love muscle cars anyways. So, I mean, I love hearing, the roar and the purr, the engines and that kind of stuff. But then it's like when you see it and you hear it and then it popped, I'm thinking, oh God, I hope that thing didn't just cut off. But it was a character unto itself because that was a badass car.
It got its own intro. You're right.
Yeah, and and he's driving it, and even throughout this chase, I was obviously I was talking to my husband about this earlier because as soon as I hit the house, came through the front door, we were already talking about it. But I was like, the one thing that really stood out for me was like any other Batman, whether it's Affleck, whether it's the Clooney, whether it was Kilmer, whether it was Bale or whoever, when they're driving their cars, you don't see any emotion on their face. They're like, it is like pedal down, balls to the wall. I know what I'm doing. This dude, Pattinson, when he sees those trucks start getting squirrely, he's freaking out. He's like, oh shit, I don't know if I can do this or not. And the realism of that was just so freaking awesome. And the fact that this car went through it and it's just badass as hell. I'm just like, oh my God, this is just freaking awesome. And I know, I've seen a ton of chases, with all the other subsequent Batmobiles or, whatever you want to call them. But this is the one that really has stuck with me. I don't know if it was just the fact of him being, a Batman that's a year two. And, it's just like you still haven't quite figured it out yet. And it's not really, you're not quite as jaded yet because this is in essence still new to him too. But just to see his reaction, but then he pulled his shit back together and was still, just as psychological and got in your head as ever. So that was my big like, shit, this is awesome.
Yeah. Well, that particular scene, I didn't know how I felt about the Batmobile, this version of the Batmobile going into it, but I was going to give it a chance. And that particular scene, like you're right, was awesome, and it did make me really, really enjoy this vehicle. Like it's believable. This is an early Batmobile, but it's a pretty badass vehicle. Like I'd drive it. I'd drive that.
The only thing that took me out of, because I love that warm up scene, but I was also like, well, how did he get it there without like anyone knowing? The fact that engine was torn apart, and this movie takes place over like a period of like 6 to 7 days, like 1 week, and he built that whole entire thing, and they don't have a pit crew. So I was like, hold on a second. I'm sitting there thinking, I'm like, all the chains are out, all the pieces are out, and now all of a sudden he's got this bad boy running, and not only running, but purring. And I mean, like, with 2 different types of propulsion. I mean, like, it's badass. And I'm a humongous fan of it. I was just confused. I'm like, why would they show it torn apart and just not like hidden or like under a tarp or something like that? And then like not even take the tarp off, just show them all of a sudden coming out and using it. You got a lot of progression with Batman through vehicles in this movie. Like I said, over like a span of 1 week.
Yeah. Well, and this movie is strongly based on Long Halloween. You could almost say it's the doing, or like a kind of a reboot of that story. And it kind of makes me wonder what's going on in the future if we're just going to get the exact same thing of him kind of narrating each story being a few days or this many months, because that's the way the Long Halloween is. Much more time passes though than the days in this movie, but there are actual phrases and frames from the comic in this movie. They gave me a copy of Long Halloween, the first book, whenever I walked in the theater. So it'll be interesting to see the progression with Batman throughout these movies. I do want to talk about the biggest thing that bothered me with this, because I know we're gonna have a lot of positives because we all realize the biggest thing that bothered me. I've always been kind of iffy about the suit. And I'm okay with the suit with the way it looks. I'm not okay. I mean, there's a couple things I want to change, but I imagine it's going to develop into a more Batman type suit as the story progresses. Even if it doesn't, I'm still okay. I just don't like the kind of the power set of the suit, because once again, you saw this in the previews. He's walking down a hall, and you got guys at point blank range with, just unloading magazines right on him, and he's just walking. And then later on, in a different scene, another guy shoots him at point blank range with a shotgun, and it blows him 20 feet back. And I'm like, well, what's like, how resistant is this bat suit? To be honest with you, because it doesn't. It just in different scenes in the movie, it seemed to be more resistant to foes and weapons than it was in others. And I understand maybe fatigue from the actual Batman, because he's been through these fights and he's top, but that doesn't really explain the difference in what the suit can repel. Did y'all notice that? Did it bother y'all at all? Like,
Well,
that
on the
was my
same
biggest
token,
complaint.
and along the same lines too, I'm like, this guy, okay, yes, he is wearing a mask that's covering, half of his face.
Mhm.
But he
And
gets
I
the
do
shit
like
beat
that.
out of him too. Where's the bruises?
Okay. I
He's
actually
not
Getting
didn't
hit in
notice
the
that, but
jaw,
you're
man. He's
absolutely
getting
right.
hit everywhere else.
But that's
Yeah.
what I'm saying. I mean, it's like he
Not
gets
in the
the shit
face.
beat out of
Not in
him,
the face.
and I'm like, where are the bruises at? Because it's
Mhm.
not like everything's covered.
No. The other issue that I would have would be the voice and the voice. Like, I'm cool with it for the movie, whatever. He's not really going to have a voice inflection for Batman, or sometimes he kind of does, and sometimes he doesn't. But he talks the same way whenever he's Bruce Wayne.
Yeah.
So it's like, well,
I don't
okay,
think he has
character
that figured
choice.
out. I,
Voice is
like
a
you're
little
saying,
gravelly, but
he is
okay.
figuring it out.
Yeah.
If it truly is year two, and like if he's finally coming out to understand the simple term of his own behavior, meaning that he doesn't want to be all about vengeance and be known, and because like everyone only knows him as vengeance and Batman. When you try to turn that leaf, you realize all those things. Like, I do have to protect the people that I know, and blah blah blah, so on and so forth. Now you're getting a totally different take on what you have to do as a person
Mm.
or hero. And so that, I don't think he's really got to that point yet. What do you do when you have nothing left to lose? Because he still didn't consider Alfred family until like after going through all of that stuff.
Very
So
good point.
even then, like, he's got nobody. He felt like Alfred was just an obligation to him.
Mm. And you raise a really good point there too, Ross, because I guess we are going to see a lot of hopefully we're going to see a lot of character growth or development, and maybe that is something that he decides after a while he needs to have some kind of change in his voice based on what happens at the end of this movie. Which, by the way, did y'all fall for that? We'll go ahead and talk about it. The whole identity deal at the end, or did y'all know what was coming?
Which
Do
part?
y'all even know what I'm talking about? Okay, so
I
like
kind of,
there's
because
the point where he thinks Riddler knows who he is. He knows Bruce Wayne is Batman,
Oh
you
yeah,
can
and
see it on his
he
face.
almost goes to tell him or to talk to
Yeah, you
confront him
can see
about
it
it,
on
and
his
then
face.
he realizes as he's talking to him he doesn't know,
Uh-huh.
and maybe that is one of the things that he's learned in year two that makes him decide he needs to disguise himself a little better. Maybe I could see that. Okay, we'll see if they go with that. But did y'all get fooled with that? Because like in the back of my mind, as soon as I thought it, I thought, well, what if he doesn't know? You know?
Oh,
Yeah.
I thought the
Okay.
whole scene was exactly what it was supposed to be. I
Yeah.
was sitting there and I'm like, they're going to keep him confused because they do that with Batman, And you can go ahead and read that out because I was going to make that same point that Kevin just made.
Yeah.
That Robert Patterson's performance out of all of the Bruce Wayne made me believe this guy is mentally ill and would dress like a bat in a fight crime. I thought that same exact thing watching this movie. It was that moment of trying to understand him, and just like in that scene that you're talking about, you realize that he doesn't have a full grasp on what he's doing just yet. He still has a bunch of holes in his enormous Swiss cheese plan of being Batman.
Well, I don't think he really knows who he wants to be, honestly, because he's more focused. This because the whole Bruce Wayne thing, that was what was going to have to sell me on this. Because I mean, the Batman, yeah, I mean, I was cool with that, but the whole Bruce Wayne aspect of it is because this particular Bruce Wayne is not the one that or the other films that we're used to. He's more eccentric. He's more of a recluse. He's not, the playboy type one that we're kind of, because it's the ones that we're used to is like the Bruce Wayne. He knows the persona to project in like socially. Let's be this certain type because there's no way in hell somebody would think I would be the Batman. There's no way. This one, he's more obsessed with the Batman persona than it is with the Bruce Wayne persona because he's willing to just throw it all away. It's the fact that Alfred's like, you do need to at some point be Bruce Wayne, because of your family's legacy. You do have all this other responsibility. And then he was just kind of gave the idea like, I don't really care. That's really not important to me right now. I don't care.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that was really interesting to see that difference. So, I mean, he still doesn't really know who he wants to be, and you're kind of seeing that, that kind of internal fight within himself. I mean, it's like, what do you really want? Because I've made a point of a lot of things that we watched where you have like the whiny kids with the whole woe is me, life isn't fair, oh my gosh, you lied to me, I can't get over it, that kind of shit. And I'm like,
yep.
And so I'm seeing this, I'm like, really? Are we gonna rehash this? Because I can't. I'm like, dude, build a bridge. But I mean, that's just a part of the trauma that he went through. Right. It's just like the whole orphan speech. Yes, there's different degrees of orphans. Just because you're a rich one versus a poor one doesn't mean you're any less of the other.
Yeah, they've done a good job of this one of giving you the origin story of the background of Batman without rehashing the same story and making it more interesting about his background with his parents, which I appreciated that. I thought it was good. Like I said, the story's really well done and hasn't taken over the #1 spot for me yet. But there's a good chance that after 3 movies, if they keep doing this really well, that they could. So I just want to see some progression with the character, which it's cool that we're starting out where we're at because I'm sure that we're going to. And while we're talking about characters, let's talk about Catwoman. Let's talk about Zoe Kravitz. Did it work for y'all? No? You're shaking your head no?
Don't get me wrong. I enjoy the character. I think she was great. But she didn't blow me away.
Okay.
I didn't see it as an integral part of this whole story. I saw it for the Falcone aspect of it. But I'm like, and maybe that's a character that they'll have, they need to have more, development on, because
I thought it was an issue. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I'm just saying. I mean, I don't know. It just didn't seem. She didn't just seem like Catwoman to me. I know there's a lot of the aspects and that kind of thing, but it's going to take a little bit more for me to kind of for it to.
What can you do when you have? I don't want to say so many, but I mean, I did feel like there were so many other villains in this show or movie.
Yeah.
You had all these different angles, and so do you have Catwoman be a part of that, or are you going to just really keep her as I mean, she's essentially a tool in this, and Batman uses her, and he's also using her as an emotional tie, and then realizing that he has to let that go even though he has feelings for her, which was very, very Batman like. It was a real quick like guys want to cry but they won't allow water drops to fall.
Right.
I felt she was more Selena Kyle than Catwoman. Let's put it that way. I think that's how I would describe it. She's more Selena than Catwoman.
Okay. I loved her as the character. This is one of my favorite characters of the movie because for me going in, I needed a good Catwoman after having what we had since Michelle Pfeiffer. And Michelle Pfeiffer was a great Catwoman, but that was just for that time. That movie, was a great Catwoman, but it's not like the Catwoman I love Catwoman. I read a solo Catwoman's, the Catwoman storyline. I love the Batman and Catwoman romantic, story. Like it's just great, and they nailed the dynamic between these two in Long Halloween in that story. And for me, this is exactly what Catwoman is. And the biggest, I didn't think I was gonna have a problem with the way she portrayed the character as far as acting goes. I was worried about how the look was gonna go because I'm very particular about the suits that I like with Catwoman. Um, with the exception of the little mask that she wore, they nailed it. I loved it, absolutely loved it, and I imagine that as Batman progresses, as will Catwoman. Because it seems like they're both, just getting into this kind of game. Um, like I said, I loved this. I thought it was great. But I can understand where you're coming from. Just for me, just being a huge Catwoman fan, this was perfect for me, and I'm totally down with her moving forward. And I thought her and Pattinson had a good chemistry together. Them standing to get next to each other, Batman and Catwoman, looked good. So I was down for it.
I did like the fact that with her nails, because she did. It's like if you looked at it, they look real organic. I will give her that.
I didn't realize how big of a trend that was right now. I guess I'm just that far out of the loop, but like so many people have nails like that, and then hers. When I was looking at them, I'm like, how do you do anything with those?
Yeah,
just
Well, it seems like I remember reading somewhere that the reason they were chosen to go that route because it looks more, it wasn't like a color. It wasn't that. It was just like an opaque, but they looked like claws. I mean, if you really looked at, because I caught that in the trailer, and I'm like, okay, well, I see this. I just want to see what else would kind of, mold into that Catwoman. But like I said, it's going to take just a little bit more for me to be like 100% sold on the Catwoman persona.
Yeah, I hear you. And Ross, as far as that goes, you don't know how you can operate with that. I agree with you, but there's a lot of things that women can do that I have no idea how that I could do. I couldn't walk in heels. There's absolutely no way I could walk in heels. Hair, please get out of here. No way I could take your hair. Makeup, no. Come on, seriously. So I totally believe that a woman could do that, but no, there's no way I could do it. I mean, I can practice. I'm sure I could, but
I caught at the very end whenever she like had her motorcycle gloves on, like they were all like cut off at the fingertips, so she could like slide her hands into them. Like, I mean, at least the details are well played, but still, like I just like how do you burglarize something with nails like that?
Kevin says to me, this movie is not a character piece type of movie, almost like Star Wars, where you're just put in the movie and you should know these people. Is he Kevin? Is that what you're saying? Is that's how you felt? Like that's how they were trying to praise? You should know these people, because I felt like it was a decent introduction to a lot of the characters. Even if
I
you
would
didn't know anything
assume
about them.
the direction he's going with that is like you weren't meant to like severely focus on any one.
Right. Okay.
The story is definitely the story of the Riddler doing all of his evil deeds, not like a focus on any of the characters. We're not building anything super severe here, so.
Well, just rolling through characters. Let's talk about the Riddler. Let's talk about Dano. What y'all think about this one? I mean, for me, some of the scenes were a little bit over the top, but you're trying to portray kind of a psychopath at this point, so I can understand, the choice there. A lot less screen time than I thought he was going to get until like the second part of the third act, I guess I'll say. Like he's got a lot of screen time, so it's almost like they completed two totally separate stories of one kind of going on in the background of this whole thing.
He was very weird.
I felt like it was like a de-evolution of the character, because when you first see him, it seems like he has everything together. It's like a clear-cut path. It's very precise, this, that, and other. But by the time you actually hear him speak, you're like, this dude is all over the place.
Lost.
That's what you need to do for Batman villains, though. I mean, like if you want to make it believable that he truly has like a rogues gallery that keeps coming back, you need to understand what these people are doing. And if this was his first attempt as a villain to get out there, and I mean, let's face it, Homeboy wrecked shop. I was not imagining that he was going to come in and blow up and get like a massive. His plan was awesome.
Yeah.
It took me. I looked at my watch one time in this movie, and I was sitting there to a certain point where I'm like, what's going to happen next? And then, like, once he was caught, I was like, what are they going to do to kind of top it? And then it was straight, him performing like a terrorist act. And the way that he did it, I didn't find it truly believable, but I was more taken aback by the fact that they were ballsy enough to make Riddler do something so big.
Mm-hmm.
And that was what really stuck with me mentally.
Here's the only thing about because you just mentioned I get your point on the Riddler, but about that plan at the end, the Riddler's plan. What, like, are there dams all around the island? Like, is it the island underwater? Like, what can you blow on the side of an island that will make the whole island flood?
Yeah, dude, it's like New Orleans. Levee. Boom.
And apparently Gotham was like, it like sits on, like Gotham Harbor right there. So they have all these like seawalls.
And the people are stupid because they go down into the building.
I know, right?
Down into it. I'm like, what are you?
You're in a bowl. What are you thinking?
One of the first things I said when I came out of this movie is like, hey, I want to give you a life lesson right here, right now. If you are ever in a flooding situation, you do what Obi-Wan does, and you get to the fucking high ground.
Right? Absolutely. I was thinking the same thing.
Yeah, okay. I guess that answers that. For me, I guess I just didn't see that, and I was like, well, okay, flood in the city, but it just seemed weird. But I guess it is possible. You're right. So
I guess they just want to wash everything clean because it's such a. But the way but let's talk about Gotham for a second.
Let's do it.
It's like the way they like portrayed Gotham. I mean, it was like that was an awful city. It was just awful. It was just like, you had the little drop head. Had the drop heads everywhere, which I mean, it's like they show the crime.
Yeah. Oh shit.
They showed the crime. I mean, they showed like the the politicians going, being bought and all this kind. I mean, they just really. I mean, that's kind of like the Gotham that you really think about. I mean, it's never pretty and pristine, never, like America's heartland or nothing like that. But I mean, the way they portrayed the city as a character into itself was like really, really gritty.
Yeah. Well, I thought this was a good combination, to be honest with you, of Batfleck and Bale's Batman, as far as, real world and gritty. This is definitely the darkest of all the Batmans, the more gritty of all the Batmans. Ross, how did you describe it earlier in the group chat?
I said that if Bale and Nolan's Batman was tactical, this one was practical.
There you go. And I agree.
It's funny you should say that too, because as I was watching this, one of the things I said to Brian when I got home, I'm like, is this kind of sort of what Batman? Because to me, it was very reminiscent. It was just like, but they were still.
You froze when you were saying that. Is this sort of like?
It was like very reminiscent
of what you froze when you were telling those random stuff.
Stupid internet. It was very reminiscent of, to me, Batman Begins, because it was almost like it was a very similar story. It just had different. It was a different story, but yet to me, it had like this underlying kind of the same similarities.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe it was just me. It's just like I could probably pick, certain things. I'm like, this seems the same. This kind of seems the same, but I don't know.
I read an article that I believe it was from the writer, and they basically said that this was kind of like a hold my beer moment to Nolan. Like, we see what you did, and you got a lot of hype for it, and people really enjoyed your Dark Knight trilogy. But hold my beer, I'm going to do something else. Right. And that's pretty much like what this whole thing.
That's what I'm saying. I'm just like there's like glimpses. It's almost like little glimpses of deja vu.
It's like that makes any sense. Part out of your movie. The Dark Knight was a good trilogy, but you left the comic book part out, right. And they kind of came back with that. So.
Kevin, I swear, man, you're like right. You're just one step ahead of me, because this is going to be the next point that I brought up. Was that he's talking about Tim Drake theory. I haven't read anything about Tim Drake theory, but I did notice the character at the beginning of the movie that played Tim Drake in Titans. And for me, this mood is the most Titans like. Like that's the DC property that most feels like they would fit in this universe. you know. So when I saw that, of course, my mind starts running like, oh, connection, and I was like, no, it can't be connection. There's already a Batman in that universe that's old and blah blah blah. So, but do you think that that character could come back? And I guess in this point, he would probably come back as a Dick Grayson, but you wouldn't have to. You could do it any way you want to. Shoot, Zack Snyder, you know, killed off. It wasn't Dick Grayson. It was or no, it was Dick Grayson that he killed off, which is not the way. Because I mean, you can do whatever you wanted to do, but do you think that character is going to come back as Robin possibly in the future, based on the way they kind of set it up here in the beginning, the first movie?
Well, I definitely think what they're doing is they're taking notes from all of the other people that are making money in Hollywood right now. And they're saying, hey, you know what we can do is just sprinkle the field with seeds and then come back and play with them once they start growing and we're happy with it. Why not? Because you know what you don't have to do is anything with that.
Right.
You can bring it in and have it as a possibility, but choose to do with it what you want to. And if they choose to come back and actually have that character prosper into something else, they can be like, see what we did. And so who knows?
I feel like that's kind of the way Marvel does a lot of things, to be honest with
I
you.
was going to say it without using the word.
No, I mean you can say it, it's fine. I feel like that's what they do. They kind of lay seeds out, and you can just based on those seeds and the reaction to fans and people like us of what they want. It's like, okay, this is going to work, and then they roll with it. So I like that. I don't see this movie being connected with the DCEU.
Oh, that's exactly what I was going to say.
So okay,
What
speak on it.
my only mentality of the DCEU while watching this movie was they're puzzle pieces that don't fit together. Because as much as I love all the cast work that they've done for the DCEU and hate the fact that it hasn't gone anywhere, I don't think that bringing this Batman into that story works for me. I fear that I I, I think this I really enjoyed this movie. And because I had really low expectations going into it, I didn't know what I was going to get, and all the little things that I got were good for me, and it was up my alley.
Mhm.
I don't feel like they can turn what they've created in the Snyderverse to bring this Batman into it. Just feels like it would be a complete shoehorn, and I don't
Right.
like that feeling. So I'm totally on board for a whole nother Batman story.
Right. Give me an Elseworld. And the thing is, too, especially with we don't know what's going to happen with this whole Flash movie and the Flashpoint and different universes and what's going to happen as far as traveling. You could still tie this in that way if you wanted, if you absolutely had to make it be like, oh, this is all connected. This is an Elseworld story in a different universe.
Mm-hmm.
It's a different Batman. So I'm cool with that. It's almost like the Joker movie. Love the Joker movie. Don't want to see that Joker in the Justice in the DCEU continuity, like of you know. Just don't think it doesn't fit. Like that Joker and this Batman, what makes them so good is how different they are, for me at least. So
Talking about things, go ahead and talk about that one.
that witching.
The Joker.
Ah, speak on it.
I thought that I was reading the only one in the room that was reading it wrong because everyone was like, "Oh, it's Two-Face." I'm like, "That's not Two-Face, dude." I don't know who's getting or how anyone else is getting that. There's not that many people in the theater, which good on us. But at the same time, I felt like the person in the room, like, why am I wrong? Is that not the Joker?
Right. Right.
I mean, yeah, his face is all screwed up, but now I'm kind of ticked because I'm like, I didn't get the story of how he got there.
Yeah.
Which is
Wait.
okay, but I want them to tell. One of the things I really hate about comic books is that they get out of Arkham very easy, and then you got to figure out like why, how, and blah 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 blah, and then they're going to put them right back in the same dang place. I'm cool with them telling a whole nother story, but I mean, like, I need something better than Arkham. I mean, like, you're going to have to figure out plan B, C, or D with the Joker and be like, if this fool's already messing up, then what are we going to do?
Right. Well, there was, from what I've heard, a cut scene where Batman actually talks to Joker there. So that was cut out of the movie for time. I don't know. I mean, I don't know what that scene was like. I would have liked to have seen that. Yes, I would have waited the extra maybe 2 or 3 minutes that it probably would have been for the movie to make it work. And there are plenty of other 2 or 3 minutes or little snippets here or there that I could have cut out to fit that scene in.
The other cut was like 20 or 30 minutes longer.
Was yeah. So and I would have watched a movie that long. I said if it's a good movie that long, I don't mind watching because I'll
Should
binge
be
the
a
entire season
show.
or something.
Should be a show.
Should be a
Keep it
show.
coming. Come on.
The pacing of this movie, though, I will say there were a few times where I was like, wow, this is like this is long. Like it feels like wow, this has still got more going on. Like I felt like the story was already over and then it started up a whole nother part of it, and I was like, wow, okay. Honestly, a little bit like Dark Knight Rises kind of was, where it feels like kind of two movies, put together as one. And I'm okay with that. It just the pacing was a little off for me in this one, but once again, still liked the movie.
If this thing was a show, they could have done it so fantastic. I mean, like the whole first half of this movie could have been 10 episodes, and they could have done so much more. I know that I'm going to say it every single week, but I mean, this is a perfect candidate. I was thinking of watching this show. I'm like, perfect candidate to be the Batman show on television.
Yeah, I'd watch it. They just don't want to put the Batman on the small screen, man. I don't know why. Every other character, it's okay. They just don't want to put them on the small. I guess the same way with Spider-Man too. The two big juggernauts, man. They just don't put them on the small screen. So
we can do it, but it has to be animated.
Right. What y'all think about Colin Farrell's Penguin?
I liked it. I liked it. It was. I see potential. Let's put it that way. I see a big potential for it to kind of. I mean, it was almost like he was coming.
Always at the perfect time.
I'm telling you right now, I'm like really hating the internet in my house because everybody and their brother's pulling off of it right now. So everybody in my house has got something like pulling off of it right now.
Start beating on the ceiling with a broom.
God, it's crazy.
Yeah, no, I thought he did a good job too. My wife didn't particularly like the character that much, didn't realize who it was, and then when I said Colin Farrell, she kind of blanked on who he was, and I showed her the picture, and she was like, "Oh, wow, okay, well, that's a little bit different than if you're going to go through that for that." And once again, I think that he's trying to put out there for best DC villain, trying to be better than Heath Ledger, which is great. I want actors to try to do that to top that bar. I hadn't done it yet, but he did a really good job. I liked it. It's still hard to look at it and think of it being Colin Farrell.
I swear, ever since I've seen like the early on photos, I have thought that it's Christopher Maloney from Law and Order SVU. Like he also did that sci-fi show, but I thought it was him. Like the pictures look like him. Like I could see him with the makeup on. But man, when I look at the two pictures of like Colin Farrell next to
the eyes are still the same though. The eyes are still the same.
Yeah. And he has, I don't know, maybe that's why I think that maybe they all have similar. But still, I think that the role itself, his little penguin walk that he had, I mean, his size. I would like to see a little bit more, which, yes, he is getting his own show, as Kevin said. We've talked about it, and I think that if they're going to give him a show, I want to see more why they call him the Penguin and not just the walk. I don't want Danny DeVito, but I want I don't need 60s and 50s, Batman Penguin. I just want to see something like a little bit more.
Oh, you don't want the umbrella?
I want an umbrella. I just don't want
to see a badass umbrella. Well, did they ever actually refer to him as Penguin in this movie? I can't remember.
Mm-hmm.
They did?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I think that may be right where the cops were talking to Batman. So.
Well, actually, when Batman came to the actual club, he actually asked for the Penguin.
That's right. Okay.
Which is so funny, him coming to that door so many different ways.
Yeah.
The twins.
Let's beating that ass. Let's keep rolling with characters. What y'all think about Jeffrey Wright as Gordon?
He had me. It was believable. I liked how he stood up to Batman, but yet still helping him. Mm-hmm. That scene when they were in the precinct, it was very impactful because you saw, once again, the two sides of Batman in the eyes of the law, and they were already out for blood, and yet for some reason, the, I guess, acting commissioner was like, you got 2 minutes. I'm like, of course you got 2 minutes. It's only going to take you 90 seconds to get out of here. I thought,
It was a believable partnership
yeah,
because he really sold. You know, like I said, he really sold the, you know, like having the signal and, you know, that kind of, you know, it was just a believable partnership. It wasn't. You didn't feel like one was. You really felt like there was trust there.
Right.
So that was really cool.
he's
Yeah,
a very
their relationship,
mediocre
the Gor-
detective, though.
huh?
He's a very mediocre detective. I
Who's
mean, he
that?
could have been good for
Gordon?
Gotham, but I thought that he could have been a much better detective. But I guess in order to make Batman seem like he's at a much higher level, you can't make everyone else up there
True.
with him.
And I want to see him grow as well because he's not commissioner right now. So, you know, you want to see him grow as well. Um, the dynamic between him and Batman was great. I did like the one cop too, who when Batman's coming on, he's like kind of buffing up to him and acting all big and bad. Then when he sees him as Bruce Wayne, he's like, "Oh, hey, Mr. Wayne." I was like, "That's cool." Like I like that. Even though you know, if you're that close to him, I feel like with no voice inflection, there would be some difference. But once
I want to
again,
make another
that's
point with that since we're talking about, you know, with the cops and everything. How weird was it just to see Batman he's like just walking around the crime scene. He's just like walking around with everybody like they're like, dude, there's this guy in this bat suit, and he's just like walking around like he's any of the other detectives. I was like, that was just weird to me. It was almost like a throwback to like the Batman '65. I mean, it was just like it was just kind of weird.
yeah.
But even though like he's slowly walking through all the scenes, you know, that's that action does a good job portraying that like he doesn't feel completely comfortable being there with all of them. He would be fine doing it by himself.
Right.
But like with all the cops, if this is year 2, he is not comfortable with any of them yet.
But that's also like, you know, being Batman is a detective also.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, what we're used to, you know, he's always coming out of the shadows. He's always, you know, like just fine, you know, it's like he's always, you know, like the vigilante on his own, you know, that kind of thing. So even though as odd as it looked, you know, it's just walking around, but yet you got the detective side of Batman.
Right.
And you got the eye contact thing, which was a real cool twist.
Awesome bat tech.
But for him to be slow rolling through the crime scene, looking at everything, I mean, he's essentially just taking pictures, just like everyone else is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was a real interesting bit of technology that they didn't go overboard with. Yeah, because that could have gone wrong real fast.
Mm-hmm.
So I was real
But
happy.
it's so Batman. Like it is so Batman. I was like, oh, that is awesome. Like, of course, I love this that he's going back and rewatching what he did that night from his point of view to see what he can do better, what he missed. I'm like, oh, it's so Batman. Really, really cool. I think have we talked about all the characters? What character haven't we discussed?
Alfred.
Alfred.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't get enough Alfred in this, to be honest with you. I thought what I saw from Andy Serkis was great, but we just didn't get very much of it. You know?
There's one scene, like when he woke up from in the hospital bed, they're having that conversation. I thought that Andy Serkis did a really good job acting for that little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm going to tell you right now, the moment that I saw him extend his hand out, Pattinson take his hand did not look like a Batman hand. It looked soft and moisturized and not like it had been covered up in like tape and everything else. And like
billionaire Bruce Wayne hand.
Yeah, Bruce Wayne hand.
This is my strong arm.
Well, and then the other scene prior to that scene was like one of the scenes where I'm like, no, they can't do that.
Oh,
that was one of those scenes that, it was like, oh, no. It was kind of like this thing, not to jump genres and whatnot, but it was like in with Rise of Skywalker when you saw the ship blow up and you're like, oh,
say that.
Chewie.
Right.
You know, it's like I had that same reaction, like, oh shit. So yeah.
What y'all think of his Bane juice? Now I find this a little weird. Yeah, the little juice he puts out because like okay, so he's been taking gunshots the whole movie.
Yeah.
Everywhere to the chest, to the shoulder, everything, walking around not being affected. he gets blown away by a shotgun, point blank range, the same distance as everybody else has been shooting him, and this almost kills him. And he shoots some bane juice or whatever this green
Venom.
stuff is in his leg, venom, yeah. And he goes into this rage, and after that is healed. So I'm wondering if they're going to go into that and explain that a little more in the future, maybe. Once again, that's my biggest issue with this is like I said, the power set of the suits or his suit. So I
I,
just didn't
I,
understand the green juice thing. It seemed a little contrived.
I took it as like, some form of like adrenaline, but then it's like within discussion, I was like, oh, since it was green, I was like, why did it have to be green? So that's when I started thinking, it's like, the venom thing and all that kind of.
Mhm.
But yeah, that was kind of crazy. But then again, some aspects of this movie too, I felt like it was a video game. I mean, I know that sounds kind of stupid, but it's just
No.
like you start off with like this first person. You're going through and kind of the way that you come through. So when I saw that, I was like, oh shit, there's his power up. It's like,
Yeah.
okay.
Well,
I thought it was just green for movie effect.
yeah, likely it was just that we'd see it and you'd see him
But then
injecting
it's,
something into himself.
yeah, I
But no,
mean, and I
good.
mean, it was like a power up, and at first, I was thinking, some sort of like adrenaline type, deal to kind of.
Yeah. Well, it's funny you say that the viewpoint of this movie is from almost like a first person because that's the way the book is, The Long Halloween, and like him narrating in the background at the beginning of the movie and 3 different chapters is part of the book. It's it's an interesting way to see things, and then once again the contact thing, you get to see a lot of things from Batman's point of view,
Mhm.
which is pretty cool. Um, Trying to think, what about some scenes that stuck out in y'all's heads? Something you got to talk about. We saw the one for me at least. We saw the fight, the I'm Vengeance, scene
Mhm.
in the trailers, but we didn't see the whole thing. What do y'all think about just the fighting overall? Like, believable? Look good?
Yeah, I would definitely say that each of the scenes, I mean, like, I would argue that your point on the suits, but I think that like the actual overall fighting is really well done. You get the idea that it's not that no one's a match for him, and it's not that he's super powerful or so far above everyone else. Because once again, he's in the beginning of being Batman.
Mhm.
Each of his run-ins are just street fights.
Mhm.
None of them are super like boss fights. I mean, like he doesn't fight anyone that would essentially have training or anything else or know him or know how he fights.
Yeah. I mean, the big bad at the end is a group of civilians with
Yeah.
guns. You know? Kevin brings up a point in here, the Sherlock Holmes types feel. Yeah, very, very much so. That noir type thing. And that's what they told us going in that it was going to be like that. It's the
Mhm.
most detective Batman we've seen. He said, I think it's why this is not a character, it mainly focuses on the Riddler and how do we find him. Yeah, very, very good point. What else did he say? He says, I hope the next one we see a young Bruce Wayne in Arkham after the deaths of his parents.
I thought that the way that they background his parents was really well
Mhm.
done. I was really, I mean, you can only tell the same story so many times, and in order to tell it for your own universe, if it's part of whatever gigantic story you want to tell, this was really good to put everything as a politically motivated issue. The Sarah, you're bringing up earlier, and I skipped right over it, forgot to bring it back up. The whole renewal thing, the big idea that Gotham is a power vacuum that
Mhm.
one person's been holding on to and it's been a fight for is really good. And even that his parents were involved. The fact that his mom was totally on her own level with her craziness was interesting because it's almost like it's almost like they took like everyone doesn't want to hear Martha anymore. I'm like, wait a second, but what if I
We
did
can one up you.
Yeah.
this?
Yeah.
And so I thought that everything surrounding the parents, everything surrounding the renewal, the fact that his dad was running for mayor, needed all that stuff, the fact that Falcone twisted it around in his brain, that Alfred helped to set him straight, and that helped to bring them together even more. I thought all of it was really well written, and I didn't find any major flaws in it that would be like, nope, not true, couldn't happen, not never, not gonna happen.
Yeah. You know, that was the character we actually didn't discuss was Falcone. Like, what y'all? I can never pronounce this guy's name. It starts with a T. And
John
it's just like a really
Turturro.
long. There
Yep.
you go. You got it. Actually, that's not that hard to do. I should probably. Now you said it, I could probably remember it. I love this guy, man. Everything I see him in, he does a great job. And I was wondering how his role was going to be in this, and I think he nailed it, man. I believed it. I liked the way he portrayed the character. It worked for me.
Yeah,
I'm glad they killed him.
he had the arrogance. I like that arrogance he had.
I don't want to see his character progress for too long. I think that if he's the head, I don't want to see him potentially come back to be the head of Gotham or crime family, blah blah blah. I think that having him in this movie and then popping him off was really good. He's always like permanently concrete in my brain as yeah,
Yeah, nobody.
exactly
That's
who.
right.
Yeah,
And then
yeah.
right behind him playing Jesus is the wonderful Michael Bay Transformer movies.
Yeah. He had some good comic relief in this one too. And oh yeah, that's another point I want to bring up about comedy in this movie. I can only think of one kind of comical moment, and it was very well placed. And it was after Batman knocks out or punches not Alfred, Gordon in the precinct to get out. And he goes to the top and he goes, "You could have at least pulled the punch." He's like,
Yeah, I did.
that was the one, and that was it. And they didn't go on about anything.
Oh, you didn't
else.
let his thumb
It was
drive?
well placed.
The
Oh
thumb.
yeah, okay, yeah.
Dude,
I didn't
when
think
that
about
was
that.
happening, I was like, "This is how it's going to happen," and then it happened. I'm like, "Yeah, thumb drive."
Yeah.
As, as soon as
forgot
they
about
said
that
he
one.
cut his thumb off, and then the word "drive" popped up, I was like, "Oh, I already know what it is."
I'm trying to think. What about any other scenes in this one that stood out for you? We talked about fight scenes. Story's going pretty well.
I just like the
Characters.
entrances he had. This Batman has a different type of entrance because it's like in the very beginning, because a lot of the Batmans that we're used to, they just come flying out. They come down, out. It's always like straight in your face. This dude, he had everybody looking in the damn shadows. It's like, is he there?
He needs
Or is he
spurs.
not?
He could come out like the Mandalorian or Boba Fett.
Yeah.
If he was walking spurs,
Here.
it's
But you have to admit, I feel like his entrances were a hell of a lot more. I mean, this movie was psychological, and that's what I liked about it. That's what I really liked about it. It wasn't like thrown in your face.
It was not.
You actually were like a baddie in Gotham. It's like if you did see that bicycle, you knew you fucked up. I mean, that's all there is to it because you're looking around the corner like, oh shit, is he there? That kind of thing. So I mean, the psychological aspect of this, I loved it.
Yeah, I like how they brought that up at the beginning of the movie too. When he's talking about in his little narration, he's talking about the bat signal. He's like, I can't be everywhere at once, but when people see this, they know that I'm somewhere. They don't know where I am. So that's pretty cool because that's
It's like I don't want you to be afraid. I just want you to be aware.
I will say with the intros with this, I wanted to talk about the music. Ross, I know you're a big music guy. Did anybody else feel like they were listening to the Imperial March every time you heard Batman's theme? Did it sound like Darth Vader was going to come around the corner as soon as
it had the dark gloominess to it.
But it was like the bum 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 bum. I was like, this is
It wasn't
Darth Vader.
quiet,
I was
but-
like, what the hell?
I
It's just
mean,
a
it
little bit
wasn't.
slower.
It wasn't exactly like
I'm
that,
gonna
but
play
no,
it.
you're right.
It was
The fact that it was a Nirvana song was, I mean, perfect. I mean, if Batman needed flannel, this was the time where he needed it. I was going to say the cold open to this with, I can never remember the name of that song. The opening music to this did not feel like it was going to be the type of movie that it ended up being because it was very I don't know, it wasn't cheerful. It was just music that
melancholy, upbeat.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then all that stuff happens and then when he comes out, like we've heard the song in all the trailers and it was just enough to be I don't it was very dark, but I thought they were going to give him more of a theme and he didn't have a theme per se. It was the same song, and it was here's the deal: it was the same song for him. It was the same song for Riddler. And each time they brought him out, they played the song every single time. I picked up on it, and I'm like, you know what's going to happen because the music plays, then the music
Yeah.
plays, and then the music plays.
I think my problem is I'm spoiled with sounds. Like if I honestly think you could take the Mando's theme, or you could take oh gosh, I just had this in my head, a Wonder Woman's theme, and play it for anybody during any badass fight scene, and I'd be like, yes, give it to me. So just give me
With
either of those two
with that
things.
bass cello and Wonder Woman, that's permanently concrete in my brain.
Yeah,
That's
it's my
my
ringtone
that's
for
my
a long time.
ringtone.
Yeah, it was my
Yeah.
ringtone for a long time. Yeah.
Mhm.
No. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. And like you said, I've heard that in the trailers as well. It just felt like whenever I was in the theater, I was like, this sounds really close to Darth Vader's theme.
The
Or
same
not, I
thing.
guess the Imperial March is not Darth Vader's theme, but yeah, it sounds really close. I was like, but it's still awesome. It fit well. So it's a badass sound to have. So what else? Any other scenes? Anything else that stuck out to y'all you want to point out? Because I was actually in the theaters taking notes as I was in the theaters. So I want to go see it again where I'm not pulling myself away for just a fraction of a second. You can actually look at my handwriting. You can tell there's scenes where I'm writing but not looking away. And like my writing's all up and off into a corner. So I'm sure the guy beside me saw me write down a couple times. Like, what the hell's this guy doing?
I
Anything
try
else?
to remember as much as possible, but it was already escaping me the moment like I was walking out. I was talking to one of the movie theater guys, and he's like, you don't have to stay for the ending. I'm like, oh no, I'm trying to leave. Like I know that there's like nothing at the end. Like
There
I knew that
was.
before I walked in here. I
There
mean, there
was.
is, but it's not anything.
Right.
And so,
Everybody laugh.
I mean,
Fine.
you have this movie does so much in 7 days and in 3 hours.
Hmm.
You know, that's why I want it as a show.
Yeah. It sets up a universe very well. Like I said, I'm totally down with all these characters moving forward in a trilogy, and this being a Batman story that I get on the big screen. You're right; it would be better as a show, but I think just about everything you see on the big screen to be better as a show.
The story of how like the Riddler just takes it all is really it's just really well done. I mean, the fact that he is like living across the street from this club and seeing all of this stuff happen is perfect. Like it's he's already mentally screwed up from his upbringing and childhood.
Hmm.
He is now holding on to the fact that the city that helped to screw him up is so crappy, and now he's seen all of this corruption happen right in front of him. What do you do with that? Like this is what he did with it.
Hmm.
It's amazing that he took so many steps to just oust all of this stuff. I thought there was going to be a whole lot more than 500 followers of his whenever they had raided his place. It seemed like he would have had so many more people following him considering all of the people that were there for the funeral. Everyone's already got signs made. I mean, God, this movie is so indicative of like the current state of like what this country could fall down to.
Mhm.
And it
Well,
slightly bothers them because we don't have a Batman, but at the same time,
oh, we have a
oh,
Batman. Don't worry, we have a Batman. Just when you need me, buddy.
got that S on your chest. Are you bulletproof?
But no, you're actually right though. That for me, that kind of makes more sense with there only being 500 followers and like all this stuff because that's the way it is in the real world. There's a lot of people who are a lot of talk and a lot of follow, but they wouldn't actually do anything when it comes down to it. So it's a little more realistic for me. Um, I'm trying to think. Okay, so I'm trying to think of more stuff in the movie, but we've covered a lot of different points. Kevin in the chat asked if we have predictions for the second movie. I don't off the top of my head because I kind of want to go into this next movie like I did with this one, knowing kind of as little as possible. I knew this was going to be darker. It was going to be long Halloween, very noir. I knew some points from what I saw in the trailers, but I was still surprised. I feel like the majority of what you saw in the trailers was in the first 45 minutes of the movie, 30, 45
Mhm.
minutes of the movie, and didn't really give anything away because there's a lot of stuff in the trailers that was kind of, a red herring or through me that I thought was going to be in a different scene that worked out. So I don't have any predictions for the second movie. I trust Matt Reeves. based on what I've seen here, based on the Planet of the Apes trilogy, and I'm just excited to see what happens. Do y'all have any thoughts about what the second movie could be about?
I think if they don't go ahead and break Joker out and turn that into a story, if you get too many people in Gotham and only choose to break one or two out, you're going to have a real. I don't want to say you're going to have a tough time telling that story,
It'll
but
get convoluted real easily.
yeah. So if you're going to do it, you might as well just go ahead and do it. Rip the band aid off if they're going to. I am interested because as much as this one was the dark noir style, you see the growth in Batman. You see the, well, I guess you don't really see any growth in Bruce Wayne, but they're one and the same, so undoubtedly get it. I find it a very a very positive path that he could take before he gets knocked down again to be like a true dark knight. There could be some like a good build up before like Joker does this kind of the same thing that he did in Dark Knight, and it's just like screw you, come and save all these people that are going to die anyway. Good luck, Batsy.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Well, do you think
predictions?
that this Batman is ever going to have like an epiphany? Like, is he always going to be this dark Batman, or is he ever going to have like this moment where he's Batman Prime and he's a little more footloose and fancy free? I guess you
Oh,
could say.
I thought watching this movie, all the other Batmans, especially since we talked about it last week, kind of came into play. You see how like Val Kilmer went through that like stupid mental like him not being able to get that vision out of his head,
Mm-hmm.
but he was also older and he thought that he probably transcended that time in his life. Even uh, this Batman said it in the movie. He was like, I never thought that I would feel fear like that again. And I think he just keeps blocking it out until the next time that he feels it. So
Mhm.
all those other Batmans, no matter how corny they were, they all had a part to play in my own head canon about what like the lifespan of Bruce Wayne and Batman could be.
I like your head canon. Works for me. Sarah, you got any thoughts for the second movie coming out?
I don't know if I necessarily want to see a Joker. I'd like to see some other characters.
Hmm.
Hell, I mean, that may or may not have been the introduction of Venom. I'd love to see a good Bane. I mean, I'm not knocking Tom Hardy, but that's not what I consider Bane to be. And
Okay.
I'm just curious to see how they could bring that one into effect. I mean, you could have a Clayface. I mean, you could have. I mean,
Oh
there's like
yeah.
such a. I mean, we've seen. Mr.
Victor
Freeze.
Freeze, one of them.
Well, I
Yes,
mean, we've seen it,
please
Victor.
give me a good freeze.
Yeah, and then we've seen a Poison Ivy before. Look at this iteration of the Riddler versus what we had seen previously. So I mean, shit. Let me see a Man Bat. I don't care. I mean, I want to see some other. There's like so many out there.
Give me a
Just bring
hatter.
them in.
Yeah.
It's just and there's just such a. I don't know. I guess maybe it's just an opportunity that if they were going to come in with a second one, when they come in with the second one, just bring in a different character. Bring in some villains we haven't seen before.
All right.
I mean,
Well, I
that's
think
just
with
what I'd
somebody
like to
like
see.
I agree with you. I'd like to see that. I think some characters are a little harder to write in if you're trying to make this story more grounded. Like it's hard to write a Clayface in to
Well, maybe not like
this
to
universe.
the exact specification, but it could be a
Yeah.
Clayface to the point. It could be someone, a villain that kind of has different identities, or is able to that kind of you might be able to kind of mold it a little bit differently to where
Right.
it's not like the specifically this clay looking dude.
Yeah.
So I mean that kind of thing.
Kevin says we need a justice for Mr. Freeze. 100% agree. Such a great character. Man, it would be so cool to see a badass Mr. Freeze. Sorry, Arnold.
I just think this is the perfect like style, the movie style, the Gotham style, everything. I think it's perfect to tell. I mean, not even like a super complicated Mister Freeze, but just to do like Mister Freeze, like justice. Like creep back, give me something, make it.
Mhm.
I just, there's so much that you could do with it. and we got Batman and Robin. You know, we had Arnold. So
They
Hush,
tried.
yeah,
They tried.
Kevin mentions Hush.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Sorry, my kids are going nuts. I had to make sure that scream was a scream of joy, not a scream of pain.
Terror.
Yeah, it sounds like they're having fun together. So, um, oh,
it's
one
funny.
thing I wanted to
That's what
mention.
that normally sounds like.
Yeah, one thing I wanted to ask. Did y'all know Margot Robbie was in this movie?
Did I?
Like,
No.
like not as Harley Quinn. Like she's a character in this movie. I couldn't like I read that afterwards and I looked at the cast and she is. I just couldn't pinpoint what character she was.
You sure it's the same Margot Robbie?
It, let
She
me
was
look it up
always in the
again
club.
just to be safe. But I'm almost positive, man. I could just be talking out my ass here. I don't know, but
Uh,
okay, good.
Kevin mentioned it twice. He was talking about how they never came out and said whether or not he was the son of the journalist who got killed.
Right.
I am not sure. I was under the assumption that he was just an orphan from early on, but I guess time frame wise, with all that working out, um, there was the picture that he had on the wall.
Because that would have been the same time when, right before Thomas Wayne was killed.
Yeah, I was gonna say that picture had Thomas and Martha and Bruce, and in the background he was turned staring directly at like Bruce or the camera or something, and it's. I mean, that doesn't say that he was an orphan then. It could have just been a choir singer or whatever. I don't know. I don't know if you guys have any like anything that you picked up on that I didn't pick up on.
No,
No,
I'm
I
sorry.
don't think
I'm trying to look up this thing right here with Margot Robbie.
It was definitely a good question. It had me thinking since the first time you asked it. I just didn't know. I was trying to go back and
I don't
play.
think he really went into the whole reason. I think he just happened to just be there. I don't think it really
It
went
was
into
just a
his
lucky.
Yeah,
background.
I don't remember anything about it. Didn't say anything specific about
Yeah.
it. So okay, so I'm looking at the cast of this of this whole thing, and Margot Robbie is on here as a cast member of the Batman movie, but she's the only character, or one of the only characters, who doesn't have the name of who she played underneath her. It also says Matthew McConaughey and J.K. Simmons were in this movie, which I don't know how true. I don't know how true this is. What I'm looking
I
at.
think you're looking at false.
I mean, it's on Google. It's the Batman cast.
Yeah, I
But
don't
I mean,
trust Google for anything.
yeah, it very well could be wrong. And maybe that's what it was for me. I saw that and I was like, oh, maybe, but it likely isn't. I'm sure now that I see this
Uh,
because I know Matthew McConaughey was in this movie. I know J.K. Simmons wasn't in this movie. So,
yeah, I only heard like one all right. That was it.
no. Um, all right. Well, is there any more points y'all wanted to bring up? Because I guess the last thing we really need to do is just give our final thoughts and a letter grade for it. So if there's nothing else you want to bring up, we can just give some final thoughts or recommendations for anybody who hasn't seen it. But if you've gotten this far into the spoilers review of this and you haven't seen it, shame on you. Go see the damn movie. Yeah.
You done messed up, Craig.
Is there anything you want to bring up?
I don't think so. I'll probably think of something afterwards, but
Oh, I'm sure we'll talk about this movie again. I want to go see this movie again in theaters whenever I have a little downtime because
I wanted to cover the drug one more time because I did find it. I found it very interesting that this movie did something
different.
the
in the
drop,
whole
what was it?
movie.
Drop heads, what they call that
Drop.
movie?
So they call
Yeah.
it like drop or whatever. So to me, that is a um, metaphor for this whole movie. And what it is they created something. They didn't tell you everything about it, but you already knew what it was. Kevin brought up twice already that this movie is not a character piece movie, and I say this backing that statement because the drop or the drugs that they have in this movie, they don't show you what it is.
Mhm.
They don't tell you really what it is, but you pick up on all of the drop head comments. You pick up on the fact that they are dropping in the club. You pick up on the fact that it's a drug and it's illegal, and even the things that they show you, like the packaging and everything else. And to me, it was real big. It was a metaphor for how easy this movie was to fall into and know what it's about without it being drilled into your skull.
Right.
Like the Thomas and Martha thing didn't have to get drilled into your skull. How he became Batman didn't have to get drilled into your skull. None of these things. It just took what you know about Batman in its entirety, no matter whether or not you are 10, 20, or 30, 40, whatever, and you could just go right off of that.
Yeah.
And I thought that they did a really good job with that. So I guess that's actually going to tie me right into like my final thoughts. Go see the movie; it was really good. Uh, Nothing in this movie I thought was over the top, and nothing. It was, Sarah said it best, very psychological. It wasn't too extreme,
Mhm.
so it didn't leave you like, "What the hell just happened?" But there were some scenes in this movie that made you really. It really gave gravity to Batman. It really made you feel like the criminals and the underworld and what the lifestyle that he chooses to live in Gotham is really about, and especially in the very beginning of him being Batman.
Good points. Sarah, you got anything?
Oh, I mean, I, I mean,
Ross nailed it.
yeah, I mean, well, it's kind of like what, I said before is, I really didn't have, I honestly thought I was going to go in to,
Oh no!
got hyped up on the trailers. Yes, I know. Um, got hyped up on the trailers and, that kind of thing and thinking, okay, well, I try not to have like, any kind of expectation. But the fact of the matter, it like totally sucked me into the story. I really, really, really enjoyed this story. I really love the fact, like I said, it was like a psychological thriller. It was an action movie. I mean, and it was Batman. I mean, it was just there was like so many like cool aspects of it. Um, and I really bought him as Batman. I mean, here we go. I'm like, this was Edward Cullen. That's the first thing I told you guys. I was like, Robert Pattinson, like for real, seriously. But I mean, I just really enjoyed it. I mean, I may have looked at my watch one time just to see what time it was, just out of curiosity, and I was like, oh hell, we're already that's almost over. I mean, the length of it really didn't bother me that bad.
Okay.
But there was just like it was it was a fun film. I mean, it was fun. I mean, it
fun.
was, and I think even if you weren't a Batman fan, you would still like this movie.
Mhm.
It's like one of those where it's not like your typical, you got the detective part of it. Like I said, you've got the psychological part of it. You got the thriller part of it. It's a freaking action movie too. I mean, like I said, I freaked the hell out when I saw that damn car and that chase. And I'm not one for car chases. I think a lot of times that's a little waste of movie. But that was the shit. I was just like, oh my god, this is crazy. So, but yeah, I recommend definitely go see it. Absolutely, 100%.
100% agree with you too. Go see it. Final thoughts for me, still the same way. This is still not my favorite Batman. Has the possibility in the future, based on what I've seen, to become. But my first kiss is not gonna stay away from your girlfriend. So, um, I just I'm interested to see the growth of this. I like Matt Reeves as a director. Pattinson sold me as Batman. I have, of course, a few issues here and there with this movie, but I have a couple of issues with every movie. There wasn't enough to pull me out of it and make me say, okay, this is not good for me. I can't do this. Love the casting. Like the direction they're going. I recommend it as well. It's just it's when I got out, you guys asked me to describe the first in one sentence what it was, and my description was, we have another Batman movie, and that could. I was trying to be kind of, what's the word I'm looking for, broad with that, because that can be taken a lot of different ways, but it's in a good way. We have another Batman movie, and I'm happy for that we have another version of Batman that I want to see on the big screen. So I guess the last thing to do is just give it some grades. So I guess just we'll go, do y'all want to do 1 through 5 or A, B, C, D, F, or A, B, C, D, E, F? Why is there no E?
Because that's excellent, and you can't be excellent when you're that far down the road.
Good point. Okay, gotcha. All right, well, let's
I mean,
do
that's
1
always
through 5
my
then, 'cause it confuses me. So 1 out of 5. What do y'all think?
I get a 4. I mean, it wasn't groundbreaking and earth shattering,
Mhm.
but I really enjoyed the story. I really enjoyed the writing.
Okay.
And the acting. I mean, I thought the acting was really good too. I don't want to
Yeah.
drop anything away from that.
I'm right there with you. I'm at a 4. It was a solid movie. I may like it even more after a second watch, but I'm more excited for the future of this franchise. going forward because it looks like stories that I'm going to enjoy and that I can look forward to. Which grade, Sarah?
I probably agree with you guys, but I might give it maybe a 4.3.
Okay.
Reason because I like stories like this. I like stories that pull you in and make you think. And that this was one where like with the riddles and all that kind of thing. Because apparently I must be a dumbass because there's no way in hell I would have thought of that shit. There's no way. There's no way. So I mean, it's just those types of stories. I mean, I like that type of writing. I like it pulled me in, and I just really enjoyed it for what it was.
Were y'all trying to figure out the riddles before you were told the answer? I
Oh
was like,
yeah.
there's no way.
There
I'll
won't
get
no
this.
way. There won't no way.
So I'm no math wizard, but I think that gives us a 4.1 average. You made it easy for me with the 4.3 and 3 people, so I think that gives us a 4.1 average for the movie. I could be wrong. Let me know if I am, but
I am going to put you on the spot and ask you a question though.
do it.
What would you have liked to see now this movie that you did not get? What were you expecting? What did you come in with that you kind of were wanting to see and you didn't get? What could have made it better?
Hmm. Oh, Kevin's is 4.7. I thought it was 4 ? That for me, honestly, it was the suit. The suit was the only thing about this movie that I didn't that didn't really like work for me. Everything else, I'm totally down with.
I disagree with you, Greg.
Oh,
I
I get it.
100% disagree with you now.
Okay,
I'm
okay.
not a big fan of the things, but
Yeah.
the rest of it I am on board for.
Well,
The reason
I'm
I say that, the thing that got me on that is because
Mhm,
it's one thing to see a photo, but
mhm.
to see him move in it,
Yeah.
because I know you
I
had a
agree.
big issue with the collar.
The
Mhm.
collar I loved.
No,
That
and that
worked.
No, I agree. Honestly, whenever I see it in live action, it actually works for me better, and I don't mind that. It's not the look of the suit for me so much anymore. It's the power set of it. Like I said, I don't like the idea of
But what's your thought with the
like
grappling
being
gun?
bulletproof at this point and this point not. Like it's like, oh well, okay, it's just. But I mean, that's the only thing that really pulled me out of it. I would change the suit, and the suit's going to progress.
But
I
what's your thought
did,
on
and
the grappling gun? Because I mean, I've always thought, is that really something that you could actually use? I mean, what did you think about this iteration of it?
I mean, Batman always uses a grappling gun, so I'm going to believe that it's there. I like the
It
use of
was
it.
very oh my god, what is that video game?
Arkham, the Arkham series.
Oh, I can't remember it. It's not Prince of Persia. It's the other one with the Assassin's Creed. It's very
Mhm.
Assassin's Creed. To where like it, he always had one that just like popped up and was like ready to go. But I mean, Greg, you know enough about like powder loads, and like I understand getting shot with a bunch of like little 9 millimeters, and if that thing truly is deflecting and whatever else, because I don't know how thick it is, he's got to be a pretty skinny guy, even though he's supposed to be muscly. Because in the suit, he doesn't look massive. He doesn't, like your wife said, he's no Ben Affleck.
Right.
But I mean, a shotgun blast is a shotgun blast, and when that close is like, especially depending on what's loaded in that shell, it's gonna put you on your butt. Would it do what it did to him? I don't know. I think that they were really just trying to give him a purpose to, stab himself.
100%. That's what I'm saying. It seemed a little contrived, and that's my only issue with it. Now, moving forward, I'm okay with the suit, like I said, the way it looks. And my wife actually brought up the point about the cowl. I don't necessarily like just the kind of leather shoe as the mask, but it's in development. I do like how it exposes so much of his jaw though, because that looks good. Whereas the Bale's Batman was just like the
Yeah, this
goatee
one comes
was all
like
you saw.
more. It's like more
Yeah,
like your entire.
I've always thought
most
about that watching the Nolan ones, and I've
yeah.
always disliked that. And I thought that was part of the reason. I actually made a joke when The Dark Knight came out. Everyone was talking about the fact that he could turn his head, and I'm like, yeah, but they're still choking him with the suit, so he's still making that raspy voice. That was the reason why he was doing it.
Yeah. But no, I mean, and I agree with you with the shotgun thing, and you're right that it would blow you away. I'm not upset about him being blown away when he's got a shotgun that close. But dude, you know that even if you've got a Kevlar plating on, if somebody shoots you with a 5.56 round from 100 meters away, it's going to knock you in your ass. And he's just walking down
Those
the hall with
definitely
these
weren't
guys
five, five,
unloading on
6
him,
rounds.
huh?
So they were
Do it.
definitely shooting like Uzi 9 millimeter rounds.
Either way, either way, you're not just
I
going to
know.
walk straight forward. But once again, This is a
Oh,
small
close
issue with
the
this movie.
armor.
Yeah, this is a small issue with this movie, and you asked me what I would change. That would be what I changed. Is maybe him not necessarily not getting shot so much, but a more realistic reaction with this very realistic take on Batman. You know,
Yep.
what about you, man? What would you change?
I I would have loved to hear a little bit more about, because we're left to be under the assumption that Alfred did a large part of his training, and which stands true in certain Batman stories. Alfred is a badass in some Batman stories. I would love to know a little bit more about when and why he decided to pick it up. I don't need a Batman Begins story.
Mhm.
As much as I like that movie, I don't need that all over again. Kind of goes against what I was saying about the whole drug metaphor.
Mhm.
I don't know if really, I don't know. It was a pretty dang good story.
Yeah,
Mhm.
it was. The story was great. Yeah. What about you, Sarah? Anything you change?
I think I'm good with it. I mean, honestly, I felt like it was, if they're gonna have a trilogy with this one, this is a good start.
Mhm.
I'm just curious to see how they're gonna, move it forward because I see the character development. I see how they can, roll with that. So I look at this one as a start.
Mhm.
And like I said, I just love the elements they put into it, and I'm hoping that the next one will have just as good elements as the first one. Because I know sometimes when you have a second one, it's not quite as great as the first one because it doesn't have that newness to it.
Mhm.
Empire
So
Strikes.
yeah.
Well, it's
So
I was gonna say it's a perfect setup for like, okay, you get Ben Affleck's Batman, and he's already into it 20 years, and everybody's issue with it was, well, how does he get to this point? Well, now you're
mhm,
seeing Batman in the beginning and saying, well, okay, maybe I could see that guy in 20 years being at that point,
mhm.
based on what I see in this movie. So
Totally.
yeah, I think that's
It's,
what fans wanted to see is him get to
it's a
that point. Doesn't
fantastic
mind him
point
being there.
because Robert not only has the lifespan to do so,
Hmm.
he didn't have to bulk up a crazy amount for this.
Hmm.
He's not, like I said, he's not Batfleck. He's not that guy yet.
Yeah.
Not to say that I couldn't see him get there, because I could. I could totally see the transition to him getting there. And I would love to see, what he does to make Gotham better, to all of those things. I could totally see it. And so that is why I think that this Batman works for me, is because I could see all of that stuff happen.
Kevin says he thinks we get an Arkham City for the next one because the city's under Marshall type law deal. Yeah, I could see him going in that direction. I mean, once again, that's hit on a few things that we've seen somewhat in the past. Like I guess in Dark Knight Rises, there was a kind of a martial. Well, not I guess it really wasn't, but it was that type of deal. So yeah, I can see that.
On martial law.
Yeah, martial law enforced by Bane, so I guess it wasn't martial law. But
How dare you?
all right, man. Well, let's wrap it up. Anything else y'all want to say about it? We have seen the Batman. We're all happy about where it's going, and we don't even have an idea of when the next movie comes out, do we?
Oh, no, I don't think that they have a plan.
I hope they have a
Go
plan.
figure.
Yeah, I hope they have a plan because that's going to be the big. Don't Star Wars it, but that's going to be the big issue. Um, all right, cool. Well, let's go ahead and put the Batman to bed for the night, and let's move on to our last topic, which I am excited to talk about because I actually watched this Star Trek stuff here going on. So I have not watched the first season of Picard. However, I've had three people already talk to me and ask me if I watched it because this season two was so good starting out. And I said, okay, well, I definitely got to watch it. And I wish Sarah and Ross would have told me about it a long time ago. I would have watched it a long time ago. But they never let me know about these kind of things. But I did watch the first episode. It was amazing. I am completely lost in the sauce, and I have issues with time travel and everything anyway, and time jumps and shows. So we'll discuss that. But Sarah, I'm gonna start you off with Picard. Season 2, episode 1. How are you feeling?
Oh, I'm excited for this one. No, it's
Yeah.
it didn't even touch on. Well, I take it back. It did touch a bit on the first season. That was only with the what do they call this? shit, I can't remember what they're called, but it's like basically like the androids, what they call the synths.
Sense, yeah.
So that was about the only thing that they really touched on. That was like the previous season, because I was kind of curious to see if they would, kind of go forward with what had happened in season 1. But no, they're like, no, we're just gonna go full throttle into something totally different. So, and previously, and I knew there was gonna be 2 OG characters from Next Generation that we're gonna bring in, which I was excited about seeing, the other one not so much, because that wasn't really one of my favorite characters. And full spoiler, I'm talking about Guinan. I mean, because she was never really a character I cared too much about, because I don't know. But anyways, but when you saw Q, I said, yes, it's about to get real now, because it sounds like to me it's going to be kind of like a reiteration of, oh God, what was the first episode? Was it Farpoint? Because I'm wondering if Q's going to put Picard back on trial again or not. So I'm curious to see how that goes. But
But
otherwise, it looks like it's going to be a fun ride. That's all I can say.
Well, this is the fun part about not knowing a lot about Star Trek. Is I don't know who Q is, but just based on Patrick Stewart and his reaction when he heard that voice, I was like, "Oh, shit's about to get good." I was like, something's happening.
Bro,
I didn't
Q
watch
doesn't
season.
know who Q is. I'm going to tell you that right now.
Do what?
Q doesn't know who Q is.
So I'm about to find out, at least. Let's put it that way. It's funny because I didn't watch season 1, and you say this doesn't have anything to do with season 1, but the way this episode started out, I was like, oh, this must have been like a cliffhanger ending for season 1, and they're just picking up on it. No, not the case at all. But before I get into that, Ross, your thoughts, just overall season 2, are you excited for it?
This episode was really good. I was a little lost walking right back into it because I didn't watch any recap information.
Mm-hmm.
I sent you that like primer YouTube video, which is like a real short and sweet, like, here's a little bit of everything that you need to know just to get into it. I don't remember exactly where. I remember like the last scene of season 1, but I don't remember how everyone got to where they were. And so as I'm watching it, I'm trying to piece it together in my brain again. I'm like, okay, hold on, what happened? I know all this. I know this. I know this. I know this. I know this.
There's a time lapse in there, because
and so trying to figure all that stuff out was really it had me sucking in the best parts of this show, but still trying to figure out what I had missed. And I didn't miss anything. It really is just trying to progress to the next thing, and which is good, because I'm all aboard. Like, you can only tell so much of a story before Patrick Stewart starts getting old again, and so you want to get to the meat real fast. Just give me the story, tell me what it's about. And when they jump to it in this episode, their reimagining of the Borg, not reimagining, but their different telling of the Borg at this point in time. I mean, I'm like, this is like Next Generation all over again. Like, I'm here. Give it to me now. Give me 10 episodes right now.
Like, quit playing. Go ahead and jump into the story.
Yeah.
Can I tell you something? After watching this, I'm watching Patrick Stewart playing this role, and I'm just like, my God, this guy's an amazing actor. Like, the speeches that he's giving in this and the wisdom he portrays in this character in this show, I wanted to sign up. I was like, sign me up. Give me the paper. I'm ready. Let's go, man. I'm ready to hop aboard and let's go. Because like I was like, man, this is some deep stuff right here. This guy, I would follow that guy into a fire, or firefight, yeah, or either one. But yeah, I loved it, man. And once again, this is me not even being a big Star Trek guy, or not really knowing it. Not that I don't like it, just not really knowing a whole lot about it. But I'm definitely gonna go back and watch season 1, based on what I've seen with this first episode and the fact that it's only 10 episodes. It's not a long season. Yeah.
Just remember this one thing about Q. If you know nothing else about Q and Q continuing, whenever you see Q, shenanigans are afoot.
He's the Joker in the deck, my man.
Yes.
See, I think I've heard something about Q before. It may just be something about Sarah in passing talking about it, but I don't really know enough about it. But like I said, once you saw his face when he heard that voice, I was like, oh,
But I love how he engaged
okay.
himself. That was, well, in
It did with
essence,
both characters.
yeah.
Like you mentioned the fact that we got 2 callback characters, and so with him, perfect. Like here's what he looks like, or here's what he used to look like, but just to make
Well,
it.
no, that's what Q looks like. But he was like, okay, let me kind of
Yeah.
force. I
Age
look
up
like
with you.
you.
Oh, if you're older, I want to be older too.
And that's Q. That's the
Yeah.
shit he pulls. I mean, he's such a shenanigans. That's all I can say.
To have Guinan do it too, or to make an excuse about it, I was like, you're not really selling it so much for me. But when Q did it, I'm like, yeah, that's Q, like you just said.
Exactly.
Okay, so there may have been something I missed, or it may be something they just haven't told yet that we're waiting to find out, and y'all can let me know. So the way this episode starts out, it starts out with basically 3/4 of the way through the episode, you're in this scene where their ship's going down and they're getting taken over. Goes to the rest of the episode, then brings you back to that point, and you get a little bit after that. Okay. He blows up the ship. And somehow he's not dead. Did I miss something, or is this something that's I'm assuming
They started the
going to be
episode. The episode was like going on right then. So they on the ship, all this stuff was happening, and then he gives the codes for the self-destruct.
Okay.
At that, as soon as that countdown happens, it goes prior to that.
Yeah, 48
point in
hours, I
time.
think it was.
Yeah.
Right. Right.
So it goes back. So in essence, it's going back to show you back to how they got to that point in time.
Right. Right. And I get that. But then they get to that point and you see the explosion and you see the self-destruction of the ship. And then the next scene is him waking up in that area where he meets Q. So did I miss something, or have we just not
That's
found
Q.
out how we get from A to B?
That's Q. I mean, I'm sorry. I know it makes absolutely no sense.
Okay.
But just Google that character.
Okay.
And it will make absolute sense.
Well, like I said, I don't know enough about Star Trek, but it was just one thing. I was like, maybe I'm missing something.
You know
Because
what?
I'm pretty
Actually,
sure I
this
saw him
brings up
blow
a
up.
very good point. With how much you find time travel paradoxical, Q may be your guy.
Yeah.
He may be your guy.
Maybe. I don't know. We'll see.
Because
I mean,
he does something. He literally, like, if you think that there is a puppet master, I'm going to tell you right now, Q is probably playing with him. So
Okay. Yeah, I'm definitely gonna have to get into this character and figure out more about it. Like I said, I'm new to Star Trek, but I'm definitely down to learn. Don't know if I'll get into Discovery for a little while, but Picard's very interesting
Discovery.
so far. Yeah, well, I had a friend at work tell me today too. He was like, "Yeah, I'm watching Picard." He's like, "Discovery." He's like, "It's just so much." And I was like, "Yeah, I tried getting Discovery. I'm going to hopefully eventually one day, but there's always so much new stuff coming out." So.
I made this argument, and you people thought that I was crazy. I made the argument that Paramount Plus screwed up. I am all for all sorts of Star Treks, but I think that what's going to happen is that they're going to screw themselves royally when they keep trying to get the fans, because let's face it, Star Trek fans are hardcore Star Trek fans. There are very few fair weather Star Trek fans. You don't get that many because the problem is that it's tough to follow. What you are going to actually have is an oversaturation, which Star Trek fans have never experienced. Paramount Plus is going to do something evil here, and they're doing it without like anyone calling them on their shit. If they were to just finish Discovery and then roll directly into Picard, it would work so well.
Well,
because right now I'm stuck on it. Like I said, Discovery it turned, not that I got off of it, but the fact that they had that break really made me be like, hey, Discovery. Now they got episodes coming back, and I'm like, it's so good. Like I'm right back in the story. And a lot of people are really take it or leave it. They either like Discovery, or they just like, man, it's not for me, because they got all sorts of new whiz bang 2000s plus blah 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 LGBTQ. I'm all aboard that. I like the story. I did hear the thing about like, well, every time Michael Burnham's on the screen, all she does is whisper, and I'm like, yeah, you're right. That's all she does. She always whispers, "Things are always so tough for me." But I hate the fact that they're doing it. Paramount is really pissing me off with it because I could have been done with my Discovery story and rolled right into Picard, and I would still be there. And I hate to be this asshole to say it more than once on this show, but I just wish that they would have done it. Everyone else is doing it.
Well,
Right.
the thing that's throwing me off is the fact of if you read any of the Star Trek like books, that canon, it starts from the time after Nemesis and moves on to then. It's throwing me off because now this is before you had Picard. So Picard is after that as well. So, and I'm like, and the different stories, I'm like, why aren't you doing this? Because these are some damn good stories too. So I'm all over the place with everything. I'm just like, oh my gosh.
And that's part of this argument. Not argument, but self-confliction that I have. Because I don't need a definitive timeline or definitive anything. But the more that they do to help would be better. When you start to run these shows concurrently, it really starts to screw with you, not only trying to figure out where it belongs on the, red string on the map, but now you're actually living it in real time watching these shows.
Well, and that's the thing you got to remember because Picard, it's at this time, which it's like the natural progression of time. If that makes any sense. But Discovery is
timeline
way the hell over here. It's like way up here. So you would think they're happening conjointly, but they're not. One has already happened while the other one's taking place now. And the other one hasn't even taken place while this is taking place. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's.
Oh, and you got to think about.
He's your guy. Q is your guy.
Yeah. You got to think about the premise of this season too. Just I don't know if y'all watched the preview for the season coming up afterwards, but it's basically I guess they're going back in time to fix the past to save the future.
Yep.
So it's like, well, okay.
Anytime you deal with the Borg, that's the kind of shit you always end up doing. Yeah. That's always
got me confused now. So we'll see if I can keep up with it. I'm sure I've got y'all to help me. So, is there anything else y'all wanted to point out about this episode? Like I said, I don't know the characters going in. I thought that everybody played their role well. This, once again, for me, it just shows me how great of an actor Stewart is, man. Like I was like, wow, he's getting up there in age, and he's doing a really good job portraying this character.
Yeah. I still love seeing Jerry Ryan as 7 of 9. That's the start. That's the Voyager character. She was a human that was assimilated to a Borg, and then she came back. So that's why she has all those implants and everything. Mm-hmm. So it's interesting to see her that she's such a badass now. Yeah. And then of course Captain Rios, seeing him on the Stargazer. Because see, the Stargazer, that was the ship that Picard had served on. But that's not the same iteration of the Stargazer. This is a new one. But to see him sitting on the bridge as the captain with a cigar in his mouth, I'm like,
that was pretty cool.
Are you supposed to be doing that? I mean,
while they're about to engage with somebody, he just puts a cigar in his mouth. I was like, oh, okay, I like this guy.
Yeah, exactly. So it's kind of interesting.
One last question I had with the Borg at the end. I guess they said they sent their queen over. What did y'all think of that look? Was that a new look? Because I've never seen anything like that in Star Trek, but I don't know everything about Star Trek, but I thought it looked badass.
Yeah, that's a new look.
That's a new look? I thought it looked badass. I was like, wow, okay. I could do that. And the other thing I wanted to bring up, if you're going to have a shit ton of people come in and start firing at this one person, after the first 97 rounds have bounced off and been shot back at you, at what point do you stop firing? And 2, don't just walk into a room and stand there shooting. Get behind something. Get behind something. It just blew my mind. I was like, wow, okay. They were fine.
So your first point, can't stop, won't stop. Yeah. And your second one, they have nothing to hide behind. I mean, unless, like human shields.
I'd have got behind somebody. That's right. So,
I got your back, man. You go.
It's probably bigger than me. But yeah, I'm really enjoying that episode at least. So it's got me hooked on the show. I'm going to go back and watch the first season, talk about it whenever y'all want to, and we'll just try to keep up with this as it goes. This is a weekly drop, 1 episode per week?
Mm-hmm. It's on Thursdays.
Thursdays, okay.
Yeah, I don't think that there's any breaks. There damn well better not be.
Yeah, there's only like 10 episodes. There shouldn't be any breaks. Don't CW it. We'll see.
Discovery only has like I think their longest season was like 13 episodes.
Actually, I think it was 15. I think the first season was 15 because I went back to look. I think it was like 15, and then it was 15 or 14, and then it had to been like 13 or something. It just kept getting shorter. But my point is, I'm like, just go ahead. I don't like the breaks. Just throw the shit out there. If it's going to be weekly, that's fine. Just give it to me.
Yep.
You know it's already shot, so damn it, don't take any breaks.
I agree.
Yep.
All right. Well, that's all I got, y'all. I think that's this week. We talked a lot about Batman, a little bit about Picard, and even threw some Star Wars in there. Fun conversation. Like we talked about a book, a television show, and a movie.
Yeah, we are well rounded.
we hit all three of them, and 3 different franchises too. So that was pretty well run show. All right. Well, let's get out of here. Sarah, where can they find you at if they want to talk to you? Oh, did she freeze?
Yes,
Oh.
I did.
Oh.
Yeah.
You're here now.
Stupid ass. We'll be having a conversation with the hubs about that.
I hear you.
You can find her at her internet security's office, like trying to figure out who's in charge so she can punch them in the face.
You'll do it.
Well, all I do is punch a button. I piss everybody off real quick. So that's all I got to do.
Yeah. Okay. Is that the one that don't, in case of emergency, break glass, or in case of emergency, break glass button?
Mm-hmm.
Smash.
But
Well, where can they find you at?
you can. Are you asking me?
I am. Yeah.
Sometimes if a damn internet works, you can find me on Twitter at My Lady Kitten. And of course, here normally on Friday nights, which we're taking a Saturday, but it's because of the Batman. Also, it looks like you might be able to find me sometimes on Slice of Film with Katie every now and again. So now I've been announced as one of the new co-hosts to kind of help her out a little bit. So I may or may not have an episode of my own. So I'm kind of excited about that. So I might be hitting you boys up, Ross.
Come on, show.
Here
but yeah, that's going to be fun.
Cool. I'll definitely check it out, and I'll definitely try to be on one of those episodes with you. Ross, they can find you here.
So, Sarah, if you're going to hit me up right here.
I know where to find you, my friend.
That's right. Yeah. She's got a little bit deeper knowledge, behind the scenes info. So you can find me at the Bat Daddy 52 on Twitter. I have the show handles at SCS Podcast 1 on Twitter. It's the only form of social media that I have. So it's the only way to get a hold of me. We are here generally every Friday night, live 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on YouTube, unless there's something that gets in the way, like a movie release, or we have all busy lives and just have to push the show. But we try to get to you every week. Audio drops on Mondays on any podcatcher of your choice. Give it a like, give it a review, tell a friend, all that good stuff. And you can come with us live on Fridays, be in the chat room, be part of the show. We'll highlight your comments, we'll answer your questions. It's fun interaction, so come check us out. But with all that being said, man, I got nothing else. Let's go ahead and get out of here. I guess keep pounding.
Bye, guys.
I'm no longer